Hi guys, my name's Austin, and today I'm going to show you how to install the Vertical Doors Incorporated kit on a Pontiac Fiero. So Vertical Doors Incorporated has agreed to offer 30% off of this kit for Pontiac Fieros if you go onto their website and use promo code 7979. You can also call the number in the description below and ask for the salesman Nick. Tell him Austin sent you, or give him code 7979 for your 30% off. And that's 30% off of the MSRP price. If you decide to order this kit using the 30% off code, please let me know in the comments below. So today I'm going to show you how to install the passenger side of the vertical door kit. They're almost the same. I'm going to show you exactly what tools you need and how to take apart each body panel from the Fiero, and also how to do some fine tuning all at the end. If you guys have any questions for me, please let me know in the YouTube comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Here's an example of the door operating on its own. I think this is a very high quality kit. So, let's get started on this thing. So this is the kit that you receive from VDI. This is just one half. This is the left hand side. What you'll get is the hinge itself and a shock. It's a special length and it's charged with 720 pounds of force. You'll get a bag full of washers, a bunch of bolts, a few butt connectors, and some harness material. Then you get these two shim-like things. They're actually threaded on here. This is actually what you'll be bolting in to the other side of the door. It's like a nut, I should say. These hold the hinges onto the inside of the door. This little nub here, that's actually a bump stop. And I'll show you how that works, but that will only allow you to open the door a certain distance before you can raise it. This right here is where the shock bolts to. You'll have to grease the inside of it. It's actually kind of like a little bearing almost on the inside. Smooth surface, but it's threaded in, and it's an Allen head. This is the actual hinge itself. It comes with Zerks. Zerks here, here, and here actually. But this is the vertical part of the hinge. So this whole component bolts to the car, this bolts to the door, and this raises up and down. And this one swings side to side. We got a set screw here that determines how far wide the door will open. We're gonna have to adjust that because the space of the fenders that we have does not allow for you to swing the door open as far as the stock hinges. That's okay because it'll swing up. And then these are just zerks for greasing the other joints involved in the that's the regular motion of the door. Now, I didn't know this when I first installed it, or the right side, but the shocks come with Zerks too. The Zerk are actually going to be in this bag, so you've actually got to press these Zerks in yourself, and then you can grease them. I would grease it beforehand. There we go. And there's the other end of the shock. Now that end of the shock actually goes down in this right here. There's a little ball sort of joint in here. It's like that shock through, and they actually do give you a pin too that you can hammer through the end of that shock. I actually used the cotter pin just so I know that it's not going to slide out on me. Yeah, we'll get started. You're going to have the door hung open a long time. Your lights are going to come on in the interior. I would pull a fuse. So first things first, we need to get this bottom rocker panel off here. We need to get that off because there are mounts for that front fender quarter panel underneath it. These things are riveted. So here's under the rocker, and I've got a rivet here. I cut off the back end of it, so you should just be able to pop it out of the front after the back's completely off. There we go. We got all the rivets out of the bottom. Up here on the top, got to open the door to see this. There are 3 little pieces of plastic. You can pry out with a screwdriver, right, like this. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pry tool and hammer it under them and then just pry it out. Alright, there it is. 2 more to go. There is a screw, 7mm bolt head or hex head screw, and on the front that you're gonna have to remove to get the rocker off. So that guy is right here. It's getting the rocker pin all the way off. The rocker panel actually has these little clips in here. There's 3 of them on the back, and I think there's 2 on the front. You've got to pry off. I figure the best way to get that is just stick a little tiny screwdriver in, press down. So there we go. That's the remainder of that clip that was up in there. Here's the other one. Get access to these screws. All you really need to do is turn the wheel. Last part of getting the rocker off. So there's another screw up here. We're going to unscrew all these guys actually, just cause anything that has a screw head. So one last clip right here. Pry off, and the rocker panel should come right out. Unless you forget screws like me. Oh yes, there's one more I think on the inside of here, right behind the mud flap actually. Next step will be moving the front quarter fender flare. Right. Do that. You've got 2 rivets. One there, and then you've got a screw right there. That's not there. Right there. So got those 2 bottom rivets out. Panel is free to swing over here. Next step, we're going to take out the turn signal. We're going to take off 2 more 7mm bolts to hold the front bumper to the front fender. Grab your 10mm socket, and you're going to have 4 bolts on the inside of the fender underneath the hood. 1 more screw. There is a 7mm. I'm just going to stick that down in there. You might have to bend the hood a little bit, and to get it off the antenna, just pull it right off. And I thread the bolts back into the holes. Each of these bolt holes, except for the first one up here, there's a little washer that goes with it, so you won't lose those. So for the inside door skin, on the door handle, or the pull handle, you're going to want to pry back this guy, revealing a big screw hole. And there are 2 more big Phillips heads on this thing. So take that guy off. I'm going to pry this Fiero, oh my gosh, Fiero, oh, whoa, almost hit me in the eye. That reveals a little screw back there. And then what you're going to do next is you might need to pull this handle back, and you reveal a little another cap. You're going to want to pry that off. Right. Oh, there we go. Alright, how about that? Careful not to lose your little lock piece. It's kind of free hanging in there. And I don't believe the door skin is held in by anything in particular. There's a few plastic clips on the inside, so you're basically just going to pull off every little corner that you see. There you go. There we go. There we go. Oh, 1 more. There we go. Alright. Door skin is free. Now you're going to have to maneuver this guy here in through the door skin and then pull it all the way off. To hammer out the little plastic rivets, I'm using a little broken mini screwdriver. Get under the door. Oh, you gotta have her open. That might help. There's the rivets. I'm gonna take the screwdriver tip, smack out the middle of it. pry it off easy as you can, because you want to save as many of these as you can. And get all 4 of these. Or is there 4? Now be careful, do not confuse them for the it's like trim rivets up here. So this is the bottom of the door down here. This is the bottom of the trim right here. Hope this isn't upside down. You don't want to take those off, because then your trim will be loose. Next step, inside the door panel, unscrew the 6 T30 screws that hold the door in place. So we got the 6 screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in there's 5 and 6. There's a 3rd screw I did not see on this side, so that's a total of 7 screws holding these door skins in. Right? No stripping. Next step, there's these 2 rubber masks, I guess you'd call them, that actually help with the window. 3 screws on the one close to the mirror. Next step, you're gonna want to take your mirror off. Go ahead and put your screws back in the holes, because I always lose them, and I hope that you don't. There are 2 screws on the inside of the door, one there, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's one way back in there. There it is. Hold the mirror on. They're both 10 millimeters. So I would suggest using a gear wrench. This is a little ratchet and a wrench, 10 millimeter. You could use the head of this potentially to break them loose. So what I have here is a thin profile wrench with it's a 1/4 inch drive, the 10 millimeter socket on. So that should work pretty good for getting the mirror off. Optionally, you can take off the window trim, or sorry, this is the inner dew wipe mount. There's 4 screws on it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Okay. I guess that guy falls off. And this is your inside rubber wipe. Alright, so we freed up a little bit more room in here. You can get the wrench underneath the, there we go, underneath the mirror. Once those are off, the mirror just pops out. And I would recommend putting the nuts back on the end there, just so you don't lose them. Now, if you've got power mirrors like I do, you're going to want to yank this connector out a little bit, and you're going to find a clip inside that you're going to want to unhook. Now you can see that connector in there. So we're going to disconnect this connector here. There we go. Disconnects it and just pull, and she's disconnected. What I'm going to do is take off the actual door skin itself. To do that, we're going to take off this trim piece. So you can snap this first connector off on down here. You're going to find a bunch of these clips. Basically just pop them off. Now I'd be very careful with this, because you could very well rip your piece of trim in half. So I got that off. There's a total of 5 clips. And what you're going to do to release the back end is just open the door up and slide it out. So that end had a little clip in it. You just kind of got to pull it out. And be careful, because your door lock will fall out. So what falls out is there's this lock with 2 springs. Careful, because this will fall out on the ground. This is a little door for your key. And that's where it came from. Those 2 springs go in those little holes there. Careful, because the springs are very small. Don't let them drop out of sight. And you will break some clips, I guarantee it. These things are old, plastic. I broke the other side of this off here. You can order some of those from the Fiero store. So we've got 2 more screws on the door holding it in. They're both 7 millimeter hex heads. One here by the lock, and then one over here right at the front. So we want to get these off. It should be your last ones to get the door skins off here. careful that you might lose this clip, because this clip is actually held in by this screw here. So this hinge should lift off now. Check all the screws off. There we go. So you gotta unlock the or unlatch the door latch right here. Just pull that straight up and out of this hole. And the door lock, you have got to disconnect over here on this end. So I guess there's a little retaining clip on the door latch mechanism. Wasn't on my other side. You just got to slide this off of the door lock here, and then you're free to slide this little hook out. So what you're going to want to do next is take out this whole piece of trim here. Goes all the way up there, back behind the seat. There's 4 or 5 or 6 screw holes, and they all have covers on the top. See that? They're all going to be 7mm bolts again. Bolt head. So I'd use a mini screwdriver on these. Get them right out of there. There we go. So pull it down. Oh, it should come out. And put it off to the side somewhere. Alright, now you're going to peel back this carpet up here. And you're going to find a little sticky, I don't know what this is, little kind of tape-like cover. Oh boy, you might have to rip it up. I just put some more tape over it. I think it's soundproofing. And in here you're going to feel a 13mm bolt. You're going to want to loosen this up before you get started on anything else. I'd just break it loose first. So now we can get started on the actual hinge install. What are we looking at? So we've got the 2 factory hinges there and there, right? Come out really easy. And the wiring harness. Now the big question is, how are you going to keep the stock location of the door when you take the hinges off? Very, very difficult to reinstall the door without the hinges being in the same place, or without the door being in the same place. First I'm going to weld a little metal tab between the frame of the door right here and the actual car frame itself. Something like that. I want to roll up the window for this. I'm going to weld that there between these 2 surfaces. Others have tried to, if you don't have a welder, you can maybe shim the door by putting a bunch of washers or something in between this gap all over the place. Make sure that the door won't move, and propping it up by putting something, laying something against the door, something very heavy. So here I'm going to prep the surfaces for painting. It's a trusty grinder. Always wear safety goggles and long sleeves when you're using these things. Also, you might want to wear some tearaway gloves I have. These gloves tear easily with small forces, so they won't rip my hand off with the glove. I'm going to prep this little spot here by grinding off some of the paint. See, I made some shiny marks there. That's where I'm going to weld to. Up top, also already made these up here. So I got the tabs welded. Don't mind the bird crap weld. You want to be careful not to melt your frame. It can get kind of hot, especially if you're using a big piece of metal to weld to. I would weld the bottom one first, and then the top one. Because the bottom one is going to be taking most of the weight. The top one is just going to keep the top of the door aligned in the right spot. Now we can start taking our hinges all the way out. So if we're welding the door or removing the hinges, I would mark with as many spots as you can from the door to the frame, right? From the door to the other parts of the car. With a Sharpie, the line doesn't really have to be straight, just continuous. So it'll really help you with lining up later if you do mess something up along the way. And then, since we're going to need to move the door at some later point, you can cut the tape. There we go. So it's not attached. So So I start taking the hinges off from the door themselves first, so you don't torque the door, break your welds. You're gonna have two hinges up, or two bolts up there. Can you not see that? And two bolts down towards the bottom behind the window track. We need to get to these bottom ones. You're gonna need to loosen up this window track, roll your window up. So that bolt that we're looking for to get that window track pulled back, loosened up, is probably the first hole in the door towards the front of the car. I peel back some tape, and through here I find a 10mm bolt. So this moves a little bit now. That's really all you need. Don't bend it. And I'm going to unscrew the bolts in the door with a gear wrench. Two ones are hard to get, so what I have here is a long extension going all the way up to the front. I've got my impact. Take this as the back one. Should take it right out. And if you're lazy like me, you want to get that inside bolt without having to wrench like crazy, I use one of these wobblers and my impact to get it off. Now you can start taking off the hinges, bolts to the frame. So here's the hinge coming out now. Don't worry about the spring-loaded part. It's not actually attached. I'm going to get this boot out. So our boot, you just take a screwdriver or something, pry her out. There we go. There it is. Boot's out. That side, and I'll get it out of the door too. Now yank this one out. There we go. We're going to cut the boot right here and right here with the razor blade. Do not cut into the wires. So you see that there? Using this razor to cut along the outside of the boots. We're just going to discard this altogether. But this is free, both sides. I'm going to cut horizontally here and get this grommet off. Actually, I'm going to cut the backs off of the grommets too. These little flaps on both sides. And it just gives me a little bit more play that I need for the wiring. I'm not actually going to use any of the butt connectors or splicing. I think these wires are long enough for this particular door. Then just shove the grommet back in. You might need a tool to help you push it, like a screwdriver, and there it is. And now would be a good time to get the wire wrap on here, the plastic tubing, nylon tube. I would just I would thread it as far through as I can, put it over the wire, and then put electrical tape around it, tight. Here's a couple clips retaining the wires inside of the door. I would actually just pop those out and loosen them up, because we're going to want a little bit more play. Make sure that they're out of the way of the window, because you don't want the window catching them when it goes down or up. We're going to take advantage of all of this excess wire here for the window motors. Let's see if I can reach. Yeah, all this excess wire here. A little bit of excess wire here, and there's going to be another clip right there that we're going to take out. One more wire clip we're going to release right here behind the window motor wire, and that'll give us enough play in the wires. Got the wire wrap all around. I'm going to tape it up all the way. You want to get at least some into the door. I'm not even going to worry about the electric window. It's wire, it's pretty good. It's pretty good and wrapped already. I might zip tie these together. So here's it all wrapped up, and I'm zip tying the mirror motor wire to the rest of the harness. I figured out how to use all the bolts. I'm gonna use the 4 small bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, between the hinge here and the shims. Now that's the bolts to the door, right? These shims will go inside of the door on the opposite side. On this top piece, the only difference here is there's 2 of them. They're different from each other. This curved edge will go on the inside, right? And you'll want to line it up and line the holes up on the old hinge with it. I'm going to put a washer on the side of the, right here, I'm going to put a washer on the actual hinge side. So the door is going to be sandwiched right here between this guy and this. On the top ones that go from the hinge to the car, I'm going to use the medium screws and also washers again. I'm going to put the washers here and medium screws through. And then on the bottom it's a little bit different. This one is the same. I'm going to put the washer here and medium screw through, and I'll go through the car door. But the bottom one does not have a nut on the inside of the door, or as the inside of the car frame. So what we're going to have to do is this is going to go on the inside of the car, just like we took the old one that was backwards out. So this is going to go on the inside of the car. Always put a washer under there, right? And then we're going to put a nut on this side with a washer as well. You're going to have a lot of it left over extra hardware. We get the antenna out of the way. You might not have enough length. Pull the grommet out, and I ended up cutting the back of the grommet off a little bit, about an inch or so I can slide the grommet back and pull out a little bit more wire. So I'm going to put this grommet back in now. Have enough wire to go underneath the hinge. So take your hinge, slide it inside here. I would put the antenna in between the two mechanisms there. Yeah, just fit it in. Make sure your wiring harness is out of the way because it's going to be very, very tight. Get the holes about lined up. You might need to squeeze that harness a little bit. First I would get the hinge in there, run the antenna behind it. Put this bolt down in there to hold it, and then thread your, this is the medium sized bolt with the washer, and thread your 4 small bolts with washers through here and into your shim pieces on the other side of the door. So on the bottom one, the shim piece is going to go in here, line up with those holes and thread bolts through them, and tighten up the 13mm bolts. So you're not going to be able to get this bolt tight in here, not enough space unless the door is actually open. So you're going to tighten this bolt, and you remove this bolt, swing this arm back, and tighten that bolt. I'm going to take this bolt out now after it held in place, and this guy swings back. And now with that action, you can actually fit a thin profile wrench. And so I actually got my swiveling wrench in there. Alright, now those are tight, except for that one inaccessible bolt there. I'm going to hand thread the 3 medium bolts. First one in the bottom, and then the second 2 are in the top there. Get those hands started and then tighten those up as well. Next, you're going to thread this bolt in backwards from the inside of the car. You're going to thread the, you got a nylock nut, actually you got 4 of them. There's one of them on the end of here with a washer, of course. Take 2 13mm wrenches and tighten up that way. Stick one arm in here through the window. Next, you're going to adjust the set screw here. This has a 3/16 Allen head and a 14mm bolt head on it. What you're going to do is loosen up that bolt head and thread in the Allen head until this screw can't go any further, until the actual whole screw itself is touching this stop piece right here. And we're going to break loose this, this is a 1/4 inch Allen set screw. This is also a stop for the traditional opening motion. Now they must Loctite this at the factory, but what we're going to do is we're going to take it out, clean that Loctite off, put some new Loctite on, and put it back in the correct way, or the correct distance. So now you can, if the hinge is tight, except for that last bolt, we can go ahead and cut the welds off. And there we go. So the first thing you're going to do when you get your door is tighten up that. Be sure to tighten up that bolt now. There we go. Now that door's swung out, we got plenty of access to it. Let's make that real nice and tight. You probably have to scrunch in your harness a little bit. You're going to want to pull it back out. Oh, my set screw actually is keeping me from opening it too far, so I'm going to unscrew that set screw and pull the door all the way out. There we go. And there's the harness. Yeah, beautiful. Now you want to watch where these lines went. You might have drifted a little bit. Looks like mine angled up very, very slightly. So now what you're going to do is adjust this set screw with the 3/16 in the 14 millimeter until your open and close action is about the way it used to be. See, my door has to go up a little. Now we're going to install the shock. What you're going to want to do is grease this whole bottom part and grease the inside of this top part. Just run grease in there with your finger. Now, this guy has a 1/4 inch hex head. There it is. You're going to unthread him. And you're going to get some grease around this smooth part here, and then some red Loctite, and put Loctite around this part. Shock goes down in this little ball like area. Make sure to grease that whole ball too. So once you've got it all greased up, this is the wrong shock. Your Zerk should actually be pointing that way towards the door on both sides. I put the wrong one on the other side, and I am just going to leave it. But you want to be able to access the grease Zerk. So once you've Loctited the threads, and this is a critical step, you void your warranty if you don't. Tighten that guy up there on the shock, and just let the shock free hang for now. So now, so you have your shock tightened in there, and it's hanging. You're going to open the door and hold it up yourself. Now you can just grab it easily by the end here, and you're actually supporting the whole way to the door here. Work your way up, and you want to aim and put that shock through the hole of the ball joint. Door's got to go pretty dang high up to get there. There we go. So it's set in there on its own. Now you're going to have to force it down by hand, since the shock is now forcing the door. Oop. And instead of hammering the little pin in, I'm using this is actually a clothes hanger wire. I'm just going to bend a little cotter pin, shape this into a little cotter pin here. Have a loop on the end, and cut that. I'd say you want about 1.5 inches long of a pin after the loop with your wire cutters. Oh, there it goes. We're going to stick this into the shock and then bend this end up. The pin in the bottom of the shock. No, that's not going to come out of there. So now you're going to adjust the height of the door after the shock's involved or installed. All you're going to do is open and close the door until you got about the right feel, and then adjust that 14 millimeter nut on top of the 3/16 inch set screw, Allen head. So I'm going to open and close the door, see how it fits. It's actually pretty good. Make sure it's all the way down. See where it goes. See how it does. That's pretty good. So now I'm going to adjust the nut on the set screw. Tighten that guy up, but you want to hold this wrench in place, and the 3/16 inch wrench in place, so you don't change the position of the set screw. It's tightened. We're going to test test where the door is hanging. Make sure the door is all the way down because the shock will want to come up. And that's pretty good, so I'm not going to touch that anymore. Next part would be adjusting this 1/4 inch set screw. We're just going to guess here for the time being. I'm going to measure the distance between the outside of the door here and the frame of the door over there. I've got about 2 feet till I reach the inside of the door. See that 24 inch? I'm going to adjust the set screw at this spot for the time being. So after applying some more red Loctite to this set screw, I would thread it in and thread it all the way in, you know, when the door is 2 feet out at the end, till it's tight, and just leave it there. So to be able to get the vertical swing action to work with the fender on, I'm going to have to come over here and cut about 4 inches of this lip off of the back side of the fender off in either direction from this trim. So about 4 inches up this way, about 4 inches down this way. That's how much you're going to trim off. In addition, you're going to have to trim, yeah, I know, you're going to have to trim about this little guy off right here. This trim has got a little bit of an overlap. Don't cut all the way into it, but see where my finger disappears under there. Cut off until it's about flush with that molded surface, if you can. Take as least off as you can. It would always be safe to start small. So there it is, all cut up. I think I did my first one better, but I cut the end off that trim. So now put the fender back on in place. I threaded the 4 top bolts back through and the 7mm bolt down the front. And I also put a plastic rivet in this first hole here, just to hold it in. You're just going to test for fitment, opening and closing the door and making sure nothing collides. Here we go. Come on. So you see here I have a little bit of a, oh gosh, a little bit of collision. See that? No, not much really. Not much. That trim piece does kind of brush against this door. And so we can see that I've slid it forward. You can see the original shadow of where that bolt head used to be and where it is now. They probably slid it about a 1/4 inch forward. That's all the clearance we really need. And here, since the antenna actually limits the fender from sliding forward, I'm putting some washers underneath the antenna to get it to angle forward as much as I need it to, so I can get a little bit more play out of the fender so it avoids hitting the door. So you're going to adjust the set screw again that adjusts how wide you open the door traditionally until you don't get any more collision with the new door mechanism, right? Now what's going to limit that is the up action. So raise the door up and all the way, and that set screw you're still going to be able to reach with an Allen wrench somewhere in there. Up, let's see, she's up in here with the fender on. You're going to adjust that until opening the door no longer hits the fender that's been installed. Now make sure that your wiring harness has no extra tension on it and it moves freely, right, with the door. Okay, you don't want this thing to be taut. Mine's pretty loose in here. If you wish, you can actually fasten the wires inside the door in the areas where the clips that we took out earlier. So what I'm actually going to do with this is I'm going to cut a little bit of the door off. So once you get your door skin back on, you can actually adjust it a little bit. I'd say the door skin itself can slide back about maybe 1/4 of an inch or so, so you can leave a little bit more of a gap for the hinge action. So if your door still does not, still touches the panel a little bit when you open it, after you put your door skins back on, what you can do is, since your panels are plastic, take a heat gun and warm up just the entire panel over here, the fender over here. Take your crowbar and pry the fender into the right shape and hold it there until it's all cooled off. So that concludes our vertical door hinge install. Now I'm not going to show it, but in order to reinstall everything, you can watch this video in reverse order or do everything in reverse order that you did. Now just as a disclaimer, everything you saw in this video is something that worked for me. It might not necessarily work for you. Every car is different. They might have different tolerances, but this is what worked for me in my setup. I think it works great. You might want to pay more attention to the harness itself, whether or not your harness has enough play in it. So again, guys, if you decide to order this kit using the 30% off code, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be here for any kind of support you need. Also, if you'd like, go ahead and check out my other videos posted here. I'm also doing some dew wipe installs, some felt guide installs, and some new headlight upgrades. So let me know what you think, and I'll keep making videos.